Hello, everyone. Welcome to William in the Magic Box. Today on our show, we are going to have Zack. Zack is from Wisconsin in the USA. So let's see what Zack has to say. Enjoy the interview. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Hello, Zack. I'm very well. How are you doing today?
Doing very good, doing very good.
Amazing, amazing. Today I can see you better. The quality is amazing.
That's the power of a MacBook Pro, I guess.
So, Zack, so tell me, how's your day been so far?
So far, so good. Today is actually my father's birthday party, so I was actually just at the store because naturally I'm doing the food for it. So,
Amazing. Oh, wow. So
yeah,
his birthday today.
yeah, 68.
Wow. And what's the plan for the celebration?
So, we're just gonna do a really simple night. My sister, who lives nearby, actually got sick, so she wouldn't be able to attend. So we're just gonna do a simple kind of game day and have some of my Italian beef sandwiches and things like that because those are his favorite. So we're gonna do that and just kind of relax and have a nice day, hopefully.
Oh, please wish him a happy birthday from me, okay?
I will. Thank you, William. I appreciate
Zach,
that.
tell me where you're from.
So I am from a small little town in the middle of nowhere in Wisconsin called Trevor, and it's spelled Trevor, but it's pronounced Trevor, and people are very adamant about that.
Wow.
Um, and it's right on the Illinois-Wisconsin border, and it is, like I said, a very small area. I was born and raised and grew up in that whole area for quite some time. So very small, tiny little town. So
I see. And what do you do for work, for living, Zach?
currently I am a paralegal for a mortgage company. So I do that. It's something that I enjoy doing, but I don't plan on doing it forever, if that makes sense. Like it's not bad, but it's not great. So,
I
but
know,
yeah.
I know that you are author as well. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I published my first book when I was 19, just getting out of high school, and I published it regarding it's about a it's called Inanimate Heroes, and it's about a boy who grows up in a very small town and goes to a very small town high school and is gay and is kind of outed by one of his friends and has to kind of deal with and process that being gay in a small town. Um, I wrote it because right around that time, there were a lot of gay youth at the time in the news for committing suicide. Children as young as 14, 13 years old. And it really bothered me. And I felt like if I told my story and how it was a really rocky period in the beginning, and then it got better, and it does get better. And they were doing that program or that campaign of it gets better, but they weren't really showing what was happening before. They weren't showing what happens after. So I kind of wanted to bridge that gap and show like this is what happens. It really sucks, but it does get better. People do begin to come to your defense, and you do build friendships, and you learn the good people from the bad. So it happens.
So the big inspiration for the book is based on your personal events.
Yeah, I did have a pretty bad event of bullying. It was really only one person that I was bullied from in freshman year, and then it kind of just went away after that. It wasn't as bad. Like I said, it was really only one person that I dealt with it, and it was hell. I mean, it was like, I didn't want to go to school. I went from being a kid who loved going to school to staying homesick all the time and not wanting to go. And it caused a lot of different anxiety problems and things like that. It's something that really kind of it changes you in a way. And it was something that, like, I always heard, people say, kids are resilient. You know what I mean? They bounce back, they're fine. I think of kids like hot metal. Kids are hot metal. They're metal, and then they're hot when they're kids because they're moldable and they're malleable. But then after that cool down period, when you become an adult, you're kind of in that, you're in that shape. You know what I mean? And a lot of the things that happen from your childhood, oh yeah, children are resilient, but you're not as resilient as you think you are when you become an adult, because a lot of those things kind of stick with you. So I think there's a lot of trauma between gay youth and growing up in small towns, even in big towns, and having to deal with, unpacking that at such a young age. So
I totally understand your point. Where I come from as well. I grew up in a very, very small town back in Brazil, and I think the only difference, as you said, it happened in small cities, but also everywhere in big cities, But I think the difference is in small towns, small cities. You don't see many people. You feel like more lonely because even big cities, again, you can be bullied, things can happen, but somehow you see other people behave the same way as you. Like you can designate yourself to some people as well. Oh, you know what? I feel like I'm the same of this, like this person, and
right.
somehow you feel more comfort. But in small town, it's a totally different story because you are there, you are the point where people are gonna pick on you, because there are no many people that you can feel comfortable, open up, or you can feel like, oh, you know what, I think this person might be the same as me, so let me kind of be close to this person somehow. Let me, try to understand things. But no, it's a different way because there you feel lonely. You don't have much, friend. Even if you have someone, maybe they are in the same boat as you. They feel scared. They feel they don't feel like they could be their true self for like thousands of reasons. So yes, I understand. And it's not easy. I remember looking back as well, but I think in a way, we meant to go through that. For example, you have a book, you kind of, found the positive path regarding that. And
Right.
and I think as well, at the time we didn't have much technology as we have now. Nowadays everything's there, you know what I mean? People, they are being educated somehow, even though they don't want to see, but it's there somehow. You cannot avoid anymore. It's spread out. People, they are talking about, people, they are expressing themselves much more than ever, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, but at the time I totally understand. I think it wasn't easy to grow
Right.
up, as a queer boy or a gay boy, not just, but any other way of growing up that it didn't
Right.
fit the society. I think every way was kind of difficult. And anyway, all
Right.
part of life. It built the person
Exactly.
we are today, and I think we are grateful for those moments as well. That's for sure.
Yeah, I would definitely say that I learned a lot of compassion, and one of the things that the reason that I named the book Inanimate Heroes was because of the fact that when I was going through those hard times, I had all of these different people. I had Maya Angelou's poetry was a really big deal for me at the time, and I had just random even TV heroes. I had like Judge Judy and like people that were really confident and assertive in their intellect and things like that. And I really prided myself on that. And I kind of grew a wit, you know what I mean, to be able to come back to people with if they were, rude or nasty. And then, I had musicians like David Bowie and all these people that were not normal to the traditional scope, but they were people who were revered, and they were people who, and I thought, okay, there is some hope for me. You know what I mean? There's people that are not considered normal, and they're loved and revered. So I kind of just went, you know what, instead of being in the closet and hiding that part of myself, I'm going to just be me. And that was really probably even more freeing than coming out of the closet, even though I didn't really have a choice at the time. But it was probably more freeing to me than that, just to be myself in that aspect. So
And in the end of the day, it feels so great being different or being
mhm,
or not fitting, the society somehow. It feels great. It feels good. It feels amazing,
yes,
to know that we are different. And it's so great being different, somehow being, silly or expressing the way that maybe people they don't appreciate, or it's amazing. I love it. I think that's the great part. Not easy most of the time because a lot of reasons, but like deep inside you feel like, you know what, I love myself, I love the way I am, and I would like to come again. If I have another life, I'd like to come again the same way because I feel happy the way I am.
exactly. Exactly. That's exactly, I think that all the time. I remember when I was a kid, I used to think like, God, sometimes I would wish I was straight. And now I think to myself like, God, if I had a way to I would come back exactly the same person if I could. You know what I
It's
mean? Exactly
abs-
the truth. So,
absolutely.
yep.
Zach, are you ready to go on a beautiful journey through your memories in life and to share your point of views?
I would love to.
Amazing. Welcome to William in the Magic Box. So it's my best friend, okay? From the fun questions. I'm just gonna play a song now for us to relax a bit before the first question. Let's do it.
Okay.
Just before we start, Zach, if there is a question that you don't want to talk about for some reason, you don't want to answer, always can change, okay?
Of course.
First question for you is, what makes you feel discouraged?
Something that really makes me feel discouraged is something it's interesting because I go on social media, right? And I feel like social media has been empowering in a lot of different ways. But there's always those posts that I see that I think like, wow, this is a really lovely post. This is, two lesbians that just adopted a baby, or, something about a makeup ad that's premiering a man or something like that. And I'm always like, oh, don't look at those comments. You know what I mean? Don't look at the comments, because there's going to be a lot, like the world's nastiest people on there, and they're going to say rude things and terrible things, and and it's so tempting for me because I am a huge debater, and in the fact that I love arguing. I do. I thought I was going to be an attorney because of it, because I genuinely love arguing, and it's something that I am really good at. And I would go on there and I would make arguments, right?
Mhm.
But these people don't use logic, right? They use this silly illogical hatred that they have for
Yeah.
things that they don't understand. So it's not possible. And I learned that going on and debating with these people and arguing with these people, because I would honestly have friends that would reach out to me and go, this person on my status is being a complete moron. Can you talk to them and straighten them out? And I would be flattered that they would want me to, but at the same time I would be like, I don't have the energy to be totally made negative, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
by hearing this and seeing this, and it's very exhausting. So it's very discouraging when I see things like that, when I see um people who it's 90% ignorance is what I want to say. And then
Mhm.
there are the people who are like, I know I'm ignorant and I don't care. And that's like the more dangerous pool to me, because the people who are ignorant, you can change their minds, and I enjoy doing that. I
Totally.
I enjoy having a conversation with them, and I enjoy being like, you know what, we don't agree. I'm a lot less polite to people who are hateful and rude, and I don't purport to be, a saint in that regard. But if it's someone who can sit down and say, this is how I feel, this is what I believe, and so on and so forth, and I can say, well, this is how I feel and this is how I believe, and if you're respectful about it, I can disagree. There's certain things that I won't be respectful about, such as if you don't believe trans people are people, or if you think, like drag queens are a threat to children. Those are dangerous beliefs, in my opinion. Those are beliefs that get people in their lives in danger. So I'm not respectful in that regard, and I won't be, and that's
Of course.
me. But if it's something like, well, my religion tells me this, and you know, my son is this, and I don't know how to behave and things like that. I've had conversations like that with parents, and I've been able to talk to them and be like, you know, if you really believe that your creator is perfect and he made all these things perfect, then wouldn't you say that that's what he was supposed to be? So how could it be wrong? And you know, and it's I try to kind of facilitate the conversation with logic and say, well, you know, these books were written by people and their interpretations of what this creator that you're purporting is giving them. And I'm like, don't you think that over time, as this book is rewritten and given in so many different translations, that things might get loose, you know, and people might utilize that power in order to, you know, project their what they want. But I like having a conversation. So in a long story short, that is really discouraging to me is when I go online and I see people being nasty about something that would really be a nice thing. You know what I mean? Like, why ruin it? You know, just keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
You know? So.
And I think in a way they just behave this way because they don't have a face. You know what I mean? They are, yes, because if they would have a face, they would back up somehow. They wouldn't be expressed the way they do because they know that somehow they just can throw everything there without a face. You know what I mean? Their face. So yeah.
There was even just like an episode. There was an episode of a show with a trans boy on it, and it was a, you know, completely fictional show. I think it was like CSI or SVU or something like that. And they had a trans boy on the show. And when people were referring to him as a boy, there was this one guy that on every single comment that referred to him as a boy that said she, and correcting. And I'm thinking to myself, do you really think this makes you look good? Like it makes you look like you have a life, that you're sitting on here correcting people's comments? That makes you look like a winner in any regard, that you're spending all this time to do that? That makes me look like a crazy, insane person that nobody likes. So I don't understand the logic there. I don't understand like how you doing that makes you feel better about yourself, because I've never understood bringing other people down to make yourself feel better. I've never gotten that in my life. I don't understand that. So yeah. I don't see how that makes them seem better in their sphere, but that's the allowing part. Yeah. Exactly. So
next question. Let's do it. Next one. Hey Zack, next question is, what's the best advice have you ever received?
The best advice I'd ever received, I would have to say it goes back to a saying my father used to say, which was, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that has always been kind of an inner philosophy with me since I was a kid. We used to do charity work where we would bring Christmas presents to seniors. And it was more than just giving them the presents and having them, you know, because they didn't have family to visit them on Christmas. It was more than just giving them the presents and saying, well, see you later. They craved that interaction with people. And it was, some people would kind of be like, I don't know you. Why are you coming to me? I don't have anything to do with you. But once you would sit down and kind of talk to them and talk to them like people, because you know, they're used to being placated. They're used to being spoken to like their children. It's once you make that connection with people, they're so much more willing to talk to you and open up and be who they are. And I think that that's so important in anything. Even when I was in sales, even when I was just negotiating things, it's important to say, you know, like, I care about you at the end of the day. I want you to have the best position you can. And I think that that's important just to convey to people in general. Like, it's my roommate and my, you know, some of my friends make fun of me and my mom because we will go to the grocery store and everyone knows us. Everyone knows our name. They know, oh, how are you doing? Because we're just those kind of people. We just like to make that connection with people, even if they're just people that pass in and out of our lives so quickly. And I think that that's really an important thing to do because I think it brightens up a world that's really cynical and dark. And I think just having that person, you know, when I worked in retail, even having that one person be nice to you and just treat you like a person and not like you're a servant, not like you're, you know, below them, is so important. So that, and the fact that even within the company I work at now, I just talk to everyone the same way. I don't put on airs for people. I don't, you know, talk down to people below me. I just talk to everybody the same way, and I reflect the respect I get. So that's probably the best advice I've ever gotten, was from my father. And I always love that saying, and I always have it in the back of my head. So
Beautiful. In the end of the day, we are all equal. We are all the same. We are all the same boat. We are living in the same planet. We are living in the same place. So what's the point to be, you know, to feel like you're more or you're under
right.
someone? We are all the same.
Never understood it. Exactly. I never understood it.
Next question, Zach. Before the next question, tell me what was the most challenging part to put all your book together, to get everything to the final, you know, to get the book ready?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say the most challenging part for that book was, um, it was like therapy, and there were a lot of points in the book that I used real things that happened to me, and going through it was challenging because there were times where I was like, do I want to be this honest? Do I really want to say how I felt at that moment? Do I really want to say, because there are some pretty visceral parts in the book where, you know, I talk about things I was going through and things I was thinking, and I was like, ooh, do I want to put that in? Does that make me seem bad? Does that make me? And then I would think, well, you know what? It's a normal thing for people to think these things and to go through these things when they're having these kind of emotions. And the last thing I want to do is leave that out and have people that are thinking these, oh, well, that's, I'm abnormal. You know what I mean? It's a normal thing that you go through when you're going through grief and through, you know, trauma and things like that. So that was probably the most challenging thing, was because I was still kind of processing it myself, and I was very angry and bitter about it, and writing the book and getting those emotions out and being honest about it, it was kind of like writing a diary almost. And it really helped me through that situation. And I think had I not written that book, you know, because therapy wasn't as accessible as it is now with online therapy and things like that, which I think everyone in the world should be in therapy.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't as accessible back then, especially for a young teen. So writing that book was very cathartic to me. And I think I would be a bit of a different person, at least, had I not written it. So
yeah, I agree with you. I think you know, write down or put everything together again, it's the same of living again that moment. It's the same going through again that emotions, you know what I mean? And it's not that easy, you know. As you said, it can be healing, it's healing in the same time, but at the same time as well, you are there again in the same place where you were at the time where it was quite difficult to deal with. So I understand. Okay, next question is, describe yourself in one positive, in one negative word.
oh gosh. Oh, that's difficult. I would say the positive word I would use, I like to think of myself as I like to think of myself as a kind person. I mean, I go pretty much out of my way, you know, to try to be kind and to be courteous to people, to show respect and things like that. So I would like to think that people see me as a kind or caring person. Um, as I was talking about before, the negative, I would definitely say I'm a very argumentative person. And in the sense that I like to argue and debate with people, I would definitely say that, you know, someone will say something and I can't kind of let it go. You know what I mean? Like someone will say something that I hear and I'm like, that's completely ridiculous. And I know it's going to be a waste of time to argue with them, but I cannot help myself. I will pull myself right into it and I will go and argue with them. And I you know, I walk away from it probably 60% of the time and think, well, that was a waste of time. But I can't help myself. Sometimes someone will say something so ridiculous and I'm just like, they're just baiting you. They're just trying to get you to argue. You know what I mean? Or maybe they really believe it. I don't know, but I hope not. But they'll say something so outrageous and I'm like, that's not, it's like that commercial. I don't remember what company it was for, but it's like, that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. So it's like, what are you talking about? So yeah, I would definitely say I'm an argumentative person, and I'm known for that. So that would probably be the negative thing I would say.
I can see you after this argument, totally drained, without any energy. I can see you there, like, oh my God.
It is. And it's like, it's like one of those things where I always try to argue with, facts and not emotions. And, sometimes emotions are tied into factual information, especially on the subject you're talking about. So it's like, I'll give this information and then they'll come back at me with something that's just like totally ridiculous and stupid. And I'm like, well, and the funny thing is that a lot of the times I'll go, well, show me show me where you're getting this information from.
Yeah.
And they'll say, well, you look it up. It's not my job. And I said, no, it is your job. You're the one making the claim. And it's outrageous. So you need to show me where you're getting this information from other than the confines of your mind. So that's like the one thing that drives me nuts, but it is. So.
Oh dear. Next question, Zach. Let's do it. Hey, Zach, from Wisconsin in US. Next question is, who is the most influential person in your life?
Definitely my mother. 100% my mother. My mother is where I get my confidence from, my humor. We're pretty much she's my best friend, honest to God. She's where I get a lot of my confidence and my humor and everything from. And we've always just been two peas in a pod the whole time since I can remember. So even I'm really proud that like I carried that into adulthood and everything like that. And she's just a fantastic person. My mom is Frankie from Grace and Frankie. I'm not sure if you've ever seen that show, but that's very much her persona. Yeah.
I never watched, but I'm familiar with I've heard some. Yeah.
She's very much Frankie, and she's just a riot. I love my mom. She's always funny. She's usually in a really good mood. She's a very effervescent person, and I just love her to death. She's definitely been the most influential. She's taught me to be kind when I speak to people, and I just really have always wanted to emulate that and be like her in that sense. So definitely the most influential person in my life, for sure.
And you always had this connection, this really close connection, always had?
Yes, yeah, as long as I can remember. And she tells me all the time too. She always says like, we were always such good friends growing up and things like that. And it wasn't one of those things where like she would just let me do whatever I want. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't something like that. But she was just very always like an advocate of me. If I did something, if I wanted to be in the band, she loved it. She wanted me to do that. If I wanted to be a writer, she wanted me to do that. If I wanted to be an attorney, she was so excited for me. She was always my biggest fan. And I think it's so important growing up to have a person that's like that, because it gives you that confidence and it gives you that belief in yourself. Because I know there's a lot of parents that believe like, well, you got to be realistic. You got to tell your kids the truth and everything like that. And that's totally, I understand that. But there's going to be a lot of people in your kid's life that tell them the truth and tell them that they're not good at things and tell them that, well, maybe you should just give up. And to have that parent, that one person who really knows you and really thinks like, you know what, you can do it. You've done everything you've wanted to do and you can do this. It is so important to have that. And it's why, I've been able to do anything. It's because I have that belief in myself, because I've been, so hands down by a mile.
And it comes from our moms. You just feel unstoppable. You can go because Absolutely. It's there behind
Absolutely.
you.
Absolutely. And she's always been that supportive person, and she's always been an honest person. She's always said like, well, maybe you're taking a little bit more than you can chew. Maybe you should, do it a little scale. But she's always been very supportive, and she's always tried to help me, whatever the goal may be. She's always been like, I think that's a great idea. I think you should do this. Here's what I think you can do to do that. So she's just always been phenomenal. She's a phenomenal woman, as Maya Angelou would say. So I always give her the credit for that.
And I can see her watch the interview and feel so proud what you just said.
Yeah, she's been asking me because I know we've had to postpone a couple of times. She's asked me every week, well, how did the interview go? How did the interview go? What did you talk about? And I go, oh, I didn't have it. I didn't. And she was like, I knew it. I knew that's why you didn't call me, because you didn't have it. So she's again my biggest fan, and it's so great to have her in my corner, because it does mean a lot. Yeah. So
next question, Zack. Let's do it.
Okay.
Next question for you is, if you could go anywhere in the world right now, where would you go and why?
Oh God, that's a great question. There's a couple places I would love to go. Most of them are food related. I'm kind of torn right now between Italy and California. I've always wanted to go to California. I've never gone, and it's not like it's that hard for me in the States to go there. You know what I mean? But it's just one of those time and place and money things. But I think I'd probably go, if I could go anywhere, I'd probably go for the more difficult one and go to Italy and do like a food tour. Because that is probably my biggest passion in life, is food in any facet. So I think that would be what I would do, and come back with that inspiration to cook and everything like that. Maybe even a tour of Europe in general. Just go to Italy and France and Spain and try all of the food. I think that would be phenomenal.
If you go to Italy, what would you try first? Pizza or pasta?
Oh, that's even harder. I think my first thing that I've always wanted to try was an authentic carbonara, because I make my own. I actually just made my own last night, and I love my own. And the funny thing is, I always tell myself, one of the things that I always think is, if you learn to cook, you can eat at your favorite restaurant every night. You know what I mean? So a lot of the things that I make are like, this is my favorite. You know what I mean? This is my favorite carbonara. This is my favorite pizza. This is my favorite. So I'd love to taste an actually authentic carbonara, because I know that there's so many debates over whether there's cream in it, whether there's what kind of cheeses, what kind of things. So I would love to do that and just have like a really authentic carbonara from where it comes from. So I think that would be fantastic.
And I'll sit at the same table with you, because carbonara is my favorite. It's my favorite. Yeah.
I just made some last night, and I just took some photos of it, and I was like, it's funny because I'll walk away from cooking sometimes, and I'll go, I am so good at this. And I have a big plate of it, and I'm like, this is just heaven. And it's something that's like really easy, believe it or not. Carbonara is really easy to make, and it's just something you can kind of throw together, and I love it. I do too. So anytime, you let me know and we can have some.
Absolutely. It's funny because I'm gonna have dinner after this interview now, and I feel so hungry after that now, for sure.
Yeah. It's one of my favorites. I have to admit, I have some leftovers in the fridge, and they've been calling my name all day.
3 questions left for you, Zack. Let's do it.
Okay.
Before the next question, as you're saying about you love, food experiments, food-wise, yeah? There's something that you don't like to eat at all?
Yes, and it surprises a lot of people. For some reason, I do not like mushrooms, and I've tried them in a lot of different ways. I've tried them. I think it's a texture thing that I've never been crazy about. And one of the things that I love to do is I take something that I didn't like in my childhood and I try to recreate it in ways I think like, okay, well, this is what I didn't like about it. So how can I reconstruct it in a way that I will like it? And then make that a new dish to put in, to put in my cookbook and things like that. And that's kind of one of the things that I really enjoy doing. And mushrooms are one of those things. I make a recipe that I got from Lydia Bastianich, and it's called beef and guazzetto, and I make it quite a bit, and I there's porcini mushrooms in it, and I'm always like, how can I do this in a way that I don't, because it's not really a flavor thing, it's a texture thing.
Ah,
So I
okay.
will take like hot stock and kind of reconstitute the mushrooms. And then what I can do is puree them. And then I don't notice them. You taste that flavor because it's unmistakable, but you don't notice like that kind of slimy texture, weird thing that's going on there. So I like doing that. And I'm working on it, but yeah, that is probably the most shocking thing because I tell people sometimes and they're like, "Oh my god, how do you cook without mushrooms?" And I'm like, "I find a way, I promise."
Interesting.
Yeah,
Next question is, which talent do you wish you had?
talent that I wish I had. I always wished I was good at gymnastics. I watch the Olympics quite frequently,
I
and
love it.
I do too. I always get caught up in it, and I'm not even really interested in regular sports. Like I'm not a big sports person, but I watch the Olympics, and I see people that can, flip through the air and do all these wonderful acrobatics, and I always thought that was like the coolest thing. So if I was ever gonna wish that I had a very specific talent, I think that would be it. Just that innate ability to do things like that. I think that's so fascinating, and the fact that they're not scared, what like by the third or fourth flip I would be like, oh my god, what's happening? But yeah, I think that's incredible. I really do.
You know the one when they have this thing that very narrow and they need to do those acrobats like
Yeah,
jumps. You know what I mean? This piece of wood they have like a horse like very narrow like this. Oh my god!
yeah, I don't
I
know how
always,
they, yeah,
when I watch, I was like, oh my god, I'm so scared that they're gonna any mistake there could be like something very dangerous. Could have something very dangerous.
any degree of a loss of balance, yeah, they could
Yeah,
really hurt themselves. And it's like, and you're almost afraid to watch it because you're like, I don't want to see anyone get hurt, but at the same time it's so fascinating that they're able to do it. It's like superhuman. So
absolutely.
I love it.
Two questions left. Let's do it.
Okay.
Before the next one, tell me what you like the most of being a paralegal.
I like the challenge of it. I like that there's kind of problem solving every day, and I really enjoy that. There's a way that things are supposed to go, and that almost never happens. So you have to find out why, what went wrong, where, and things like that, and figuring things out. So I enjoy that part of it a lot. Um, there's a lot of different aspects, and I've learned a lot of different things about mortgages and things like that, and housing, and it's been something that I really appreciate having learned a lot about, because I think it would be good even outside of this job. So that's the one thing I would say that I really enjoy about it, for sure.
Okay. Next question is, I think that's going to be very easy for you. What are you most passionate about?
Food. Cooking in any way. I am currently doing a cookbook right now. I'm currently going to be doing a kind of like cooking show and tutorial with tips and things on TikTok and recipes on YouTube. I am at like 53 recipes out of the 75 I want for my book,
Wow.
that are original ones. So I'm excited about that. I live and breathe cooking. When I say I watch cooking shows like people watch, dramas. I watch them from season to season. I watch them throughout. My favorite is Ina Garten. She's always been my favorite because she's really classy. She's very kind. She loves doing dinner parties and things like that. One of my favorite things to do. But when I say I love cooking, I love going to the store and getting things for it. I love, putting it together, cooking it, and then presenting it in a beautiful way and thinking of different cool ways to do things. So I just love it from start to finish. And it's something that I have always been passionate about, even since I was 14.
Wow.
One way that my mom was encouraging, for example, was I was maybe 4 or 5 years old, and I had this little easy bake mixer, and it was like a little blender that you could put on there and a stand mixer that you could put on this little fake counter, and it would, whir. And I would sit there and watch cooking shows while I played on the floor, and I just realized like I really got into it. So what I would do is I would go in the kitchen and I would take a Ziploc bag, and I would put this flour and water in this little mixing bowl, and I would mix it in the little toy mixer, and then I would put the flour and the water in the Ziploc bag and put it in the fridge, and I'd go up to my mother and I'd say, oh, that needs to sit for like 2 hours. And she would be like, okay, no problem, let's, and I would just do it over and over and over again. And those bags were totally forgotten about because I was 4 or 5 years old. But she never, and I think of this all the time. I think like, what would I have done as a parent? I would have been like, stop doing this. You're making a mess. This is ridiculous. You know what I mean? She
Yeah.
never did that. Not once. She said, okay, all right, we'll put this in the fridge. And she just let me do it.
Wow.
And that was so, it's incredible how empowering that was to me for her to do that simple act of kindness, and not going, okay, stop making, you're making this ridiculous. She never did that. She just said,
Wow.
okay, go ahead, you're enjoying yourself, you do it. She let me do it, and that really changed the course of my life for one of the best things that it could have, because the passion that I have for cooking. So it's just little things like that are the little tiny dominoes that make the big wall fall. You know what I mean? And that's exactly how it was. Is I got into it because I was encouraged to, and I think that's so important for parents, to be able to let them do things even though it seems ridiculous. So,
I can't
but
wait to see your book ready, okay? Can't wait to
yeah,
see.
I'm so excited. I'm going to be starting on the pictures and everything soon with one of my greatest friends that's a fantastic photographer. So we're going to be working on that pretty soon. So I'm very excited to, now that I have the recipes together, I'm very excited to start getting on the actual publication. So
Amazing. Ready for the last question, Zach?
I sure am.
Let's do it. Last one. But before the last question, the beginning of the interview, you mentioned that, regarding your book, and regard that was one person that was hard on you, yeah, like bullying you at the time. My question for you is, have you forgiven this person?
I don't know. It would depend on if the person had changed. I haven't seen this person in 12 years, about, I would say. It would depend on if the person had changed. The person had come up to me and said, I was, a real jerk growing up, and I really feel bad about that. I could forgive them. If they're still the same person that they were, and I'm telling you, this was a person who would, to give you an idea of this person, it wasn't just like gay people they hated. I'm pretty sure they were a white supremacist. I'm pretty sure that I actually heard rumors of them like picking on, there was a blind student at school that they would push around and things like that. So this was just not a person who was very damaged. I don't know if they're past that at this point. I don't know if they've become a good person. I have no idea. If they came up to me and they were apologetic and said, I've really grown as a person, I think everyone has to have that ability to grow as a person. I think there's some things, that are not redeemable that you can do, and you can take your pick of what those might be. But I think some people need to have that redemption arc, and some people have to have that, I was a really bad person at the time. I think we've all done things we're not proud of and that we are ashamed of at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to offer that to people, but if they were still the same person, I couldn't forgive it. You know what I mean? I couldn't let that go. I would still say, you're kind of a dirtball person. So that would all depend, but I kind of, in a way, hope I never see them again anyway. So it's a weird, balance there.
Even though you don't have any contact with this person, but somehow your book got to this person, would you like this person to read it?
Yes, I would. I would like them to read it. I don't know if they would. I have a strange feeling that book reading is probably not their thing to do, but I I would love for them to read it and to see how much what they did had affected somebody, because I don't think people think about things like that when they're mean and they're cruel to people. Maybe they do, and maybe that's why they do it. I don't know. But I would have to believe that people, when they're rude and nasty like that, are going through some trauma of their own, and they're taking it out on the world. And while that doesn't excuse their behavior, because there's plenty of people going through trauma every day and they're not, manifesting it to someone else's problem, there's a reason for it. And I would have to say, I think it would be maybe beneficial for him to grow as a person, to see how much he affected somebody else by the way of his actions, and that it wasn't, just a joke or, something, a fun way to pass the time for him. It was something that really was awful, and to see the gravity of the actions that he did. So I would be interested in to hear that.
Okay. Last question for you is, I think this one you're gonna like this question, I think.
Oh, good.
Let's see that you have the attention of the president of USA, your current president right now. You are facing time, and you have the chance to give just one advice to your current president. What would you say?
Oh, wow. That is quite a question. If I could give one advice to my current president, I think it would be, I think my cheeky response would be cancel student loans. I think that would be the kind of, even though it's kind of serious, I think that would be something that would really benefit the US economy, would be if people could get out from that crippling debt that they were just doing to try to better themselves. And if they could really go forward with that. I know that they're currently trying to do that, and it's in the Supreme Court due to Texas and things like that. It's currently being held up and challenged to do that, because they were going to release about, I think, $20,000 of loan liability to a lot of the students. So that would probably be a cheeky response. I think if I could say to any president, I mean, even the one that's serving now or ones in the past, I think I would have to remind them that there's no way to please everybody. And I think that that's an important thing in the back of a president's mind, is that they're trying to please as many people as possible because they need to get reelected. And I understand that. But there's a clear difference between right and wrong. And I think that a lot of people get lost in the shuffle with that when they're trying to appease certain groups of people. So I think that one thing that I've always thought of is, if you're taking somebody else's rights away in order to make another group feel comfortable, then you're probably not making the right group feel comfortable. So if you have to pick and choose who you're making comfortable, and I'm not saying any of his policies, I'm speaking of any president ever. Mm-hmm. If you have to make that kind of decision, I think it's important to make the decisions that empower and give more rights to people versus taking them away. If you're allowing, the current hot button issue in America is that they're trying to demonize drag queens because they have, these super conservative people have nothing to do with their time. So they're trying to find them as the scapegoat, and they're trying to say, oh, it's drag queens. We have kids. America has a lot of problems. We have kids being shot in school. We have a lot of poverty in one of what is supposed to be one of the greatest countries in the world. We have a lot of problems. And these people are seeing all these problems and thinking, we have to stop drag queens from being seen by children. And I'm thinking to myself, this is the most ridiculous thing. This doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. And it doesn't make any sense because it's a scapegoat. And exactly what they're trying to do, as they always have. They're trying to demonize the LGBT community. They're trying to put this evil on other people that have nothing to do with it. And it's really a shame that that's what they're doing, because there's so much different policy change and things that could happen to protect children in schools and to protect women and to protect LGBT people and just society in general. But we're focusing on things that are nonsensical because of, our religious belief. So my whole thing is, if you're taking rights away to protect somebody else, that doesn't really make any sense. If your rights are, you have a right to believe what you believe. You go ahead and believe your religion, but you don't have a right to project your religion onto me. I don't want anything to do with that. That's not my thing. So that's kind of how I've always felt. And I think that would be my biggest advice to the president, is just to be mindful of that, to be mindful of the fact of who you're appeasing and what rights you're constricting on people. Because regardless of where you move in that political spectrum, you're going to offend somebody. But I would much rather offend a white supremacist than a regular everyday person who's a good person and supports his community and does things. So that's kind of the advice I think I would give to a president, is just to be mindful of that. So
Beautifully said. Oh my God. Oh my God. I wish I could speak the same way you just did right now. My goodness. Beautiful, beautiful. I cannot speak this way, but I can sign underneath your statements.
Good. That works for me.
Okay, so then let's play now the word association game. Okay, I'm going to give away some words. Just tell one word that comes to your mind. Quick thinking.
Okay, I'll try.
So, I hope you are enjoying the interview. Before we do the word association game, don't forget to give a like, don't forget to share this video, and also don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Just click on the button right there. Thank you so much and enjoy the word association game. One word for money.
Better.
Family.
Warm.
One word for love.
For loss?
Love.
Love. Hope.
Life.
Experience.
Sex.
Fun.
Politics.
Divisive.
Religion.
Divisive.
Fear.
Fear is anxiety, I think I would say.
Friendship.
The best. I know it's not one word, but fantastic, I guess I would say.
Desire.
Expected. This is the first word that comes to my mind. I don't know why.
Regret.
Common, I would say.
Success.
Hard.
Wish.
Attainable.
Happiness.
Important.
One word for paralegal.
A job. A living.
One word for Wisconsin.
Midwest. It's out there.
One word for USA.
Potential.
One word for cooking.
Life.
And the last one now, if you could define your book in one word, what that would be?
If I could describe it in one word, I think I would say hope. I think I would say that that's kind of what I was going for when I wrote it, was to give hope to these young kids who were kind of looking at a brick wall instead of a tunnel. They were seeing that there was no way out, there was no way to go. And I wanted them to see that that's just an illusion. You know what I mean? You can go beyond that. That brick wall is really a door, and you can go past that, and you're going to go through some tough things. And I wanted to give that hope so that I could, because I'm not kidding, like seeing those kids committing suicide at such a young age, and to think that that was the only thing they could do at the time, you know, as a queer person, I think a lot of us can sympathize with that emotion, and to think like, wow, this is awful, it's not going to get better. And I really wanted to give that hope and to show like it does get better. You do have friends. You know, in my senior year of high school, I had a friend in pretty much everybody. And I want them to see that, and I want them to see that there is that hope, and that it does get better, and it's not just a saying. It really does get better. There are peaks and valleys in life, and it is just how it goes. And at that one valley, you know, you're really going to feel low, and it's hard as a kid to think, wow, this is my life, and I'm what, 13 years old, how much worse is it going to get? Because you don't think that way as a child. You think that it's just going to pretty much stay the same. So that would be absolutely, bar none, the one thing I would say is hope. That was what I was trying to give to as many people as possible, honestly.
Amazing. As you mentioned that your mom is your best friend, if I would go for a coffee with her right now and ask her, tell me the most beautiful thing about Zack and tell me something that he still needs to work on to improve on, what she would say?
I don't know. I think she would probably say that I am a very caring and kind person. I think she's proud of me for that. I think she's proud of how ambitious I am. I think she would be very gushing about that. I think one thing that I know she would probably say is that I can be very stubborn, and I can be very argumentative, and I certainly can. And I think that would be the one thing she would say, is that he needs to learn to let things go a little more, because I do hold on to things sometimes. So I think that would be one of the things that she would definitely say, was to, just, who cares? Let it go.
I think the day when the interview goes live, when we get to this point, you pause the interview to see what you're gonna say, and after you pause it again to see if she said the same.
Oh yeah, I would love it. I would love to. I would be fascinated to hear what she'd say. I'm pretty sure I'll be right.
Let's play now, Zack, and the magic box, and you can ask me a question. Okay,
Okay.
Zack, you can ask me a question now.
Okay. What inspires you to do your interviews?
Beautiful question, and I've got an answer for you straight away. You know what? I'm gonna tell you some things, Zach. The way you talk, the way you express yourself, very intelligent, very, I don't know. There's something that the way that when I mentioned before, I wish I could talk the same way as you. Since the beginning of the interview, I've been admiring the way you talk, the way you express yourself with words, with very strong words. At the same time as well, kind. There's some kindness there, and I think this is beautiful. And back to the question is, you have no idea how happy I feel and very grateful as well to connect with people around the world and, see the way they are living their life, the way they express themselves, the way that maybe every interview I learn something new. Every interview I get something from my personal life. Every interview, it opened my mind for different topics, different things that maybe I wasn't very clear about it, or maybe I didn't have much knowledge. And just seeing people like you talking so open about things in life, about the past, about challenges, it helps. It helps a lot. So imagine, I just feel the biggest inspiration for me is just to connect to so many people. I know that every interview I'm going to do, I'm going to learn something new. And not just me, but imagine the people watch this interview right now. Imagine how much they're going to appreciate just everything you just said, the topics that you shared, your opinion as well. So it's not just me or my guests, it's everyone else who is watching the interview. You know what I mean? You never know where this interview can reach, where it's going to get. I had so many feedbacks from people saying that they watched the interview from the other side of the world, and they could like connect themselves with this person for different topics or different reasons, you know. So I think the best part of the show for me and the biggest inspiration, it's about connect with people and also let themselves express the way they are, you know. I think that's the best part for me.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. I try to live my life the same way. I enjoy having a diverse, you know, group of people that I'm around, just because it's interesting to know, you know, your way is not always right, and that's not a bad thing. You know, I always said, I know a lot of my friends would say about how they didn't like feeling stupid, you know, if they went to a lecture or things like that. I absolutely love not being the smartest person in the room. I find it fascinating because that's the only way you learn.
Yeah.
And I love hearing, you know, other people's opinions and things like that on things. So yeah, I don't want to be the smartest person in the room at any given time. I love having other people that are much smarter than me. So I try to surround myself with that.
Absolutely. Zack, did you enjoy the interview?
I loved it. It was fun. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much for taking the time for the interview, and again for being so open and so, you know, open about your past, about your challenges. You know, I think talking about it, you're not just healing, you are helping people as well. I think that's what matters. Before we go, if you can share a positive message or something that you live by.
A positive message, like I said, I think it would be that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So, you know, just be that person that can, you know, share that with them. Be a person who is compassionate. You can try to see where they're coming from. You know, there's going to be certainly circumstances where people are way over the top and you're not going to be able to do that. And that's completely understandable.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't purport to be, you know, a saint in any regard, of course, but it's so important to just go to that person who might be having a hard day or might be, you never know what they're going through, and just speak to them like a person. You know what I mean? Don't speak to them like they owe you something. Don't speak to them like while they work here, so they're supposed to help me. Speak to them like a person and just talk to people the way you would talk to a friend. And I think that that's really important in relating to anybody. So that would probably be my most positive message that I could say, is just make sure to be kind and courteous to people and realize that everyone's going through something, not just you. So
amazing. Very good. Again, happy birthday to your lovely dads and enjoy the celebrations tonight. Okay, have a great time.
Thank you. I'll definitely let him know. Thank you so much. It was a wonderful time.
Take care. Bye-bye, Zack. Take care.
Take care. Have a good one.
So, did you like the show? Don't forget to give a like, share it, and also don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And if you'd like to be part of the show as well, first, subscribe to our channel, and after that, just go to our website, www.williamandthemagicbox.com, and send us a request saying why would you like to be part of the show. And I see you there. Bye-bye. See you next time.